people, and welcome back. And today I'm breaking down how I made this grime beat. Now this style of grime beat is for artists like Gets, P Money, Chip, Frisco and DWE. So let's not waste any more time and let's get straight into it. When I first started this grime beat, I started off with a bell one shot which I used in the quick sampler which I got from the sound kit Cercinus Volume 1. And when I dragged it into this quick sampler, I clicked this right here, follow tempo. Now what this does is it syncs up any one shot to the BPM, so it just keeps everything in time. So now here's the pattern for the bell one shot. And I'm working in the key of C sharp minor. This is just a very simple pattern and this is what it sounds like. And I didn't add any effects to that, I just left it the way it was and then I just bounced it down to an audio file. Now once I bounced it down to an audio file, I chopped it up and just took a piece of it, and this is it right here. Next I added another bell one shot. And this is the bell one shot I had chosen, bell_17, and it's from the same sound kit. And I've done the same again. I clicked on follow tempo, and that's all I've done within this quick sampler. And now as you can see, I've just copied and pasted the same notes from the first bell into the piano roll onto this second bell, and this is what it sounds like. The first effect I added was Portal. Now I chose this preset right here called Grain Swells, and I got it from this library right here. Then I added some H delay, and these are my settings for the H delay. And then lastly I added some EQ. With this EQ I took off everything below 450 Hz. Next I added another bell one shot. Now this is the name of the bell one shot I'd chosen, Bell 16, which I made myself, as I'm currently working on my sound kit which is coming out soon, so look out for that. And also with this bell one shot I selected follow tempo, and now with the speed normally it's on 1, but I went to half. When you go to half or quarter or 1/8, it slows the one shot down but still keeps it in the timing of the BPM, and this is what it sounds like. And the first effect I added was some channel EQ. Now with this EQ I low cut it by 125 Hz, just taking out a lot of the lows. And then next I added some H delay. Now these are my settings for the H delay. Next I added 2 accents. Now I got both of these accents from Accent Essentials Volume 1. All the sound kits that I'm using, the link will be in the description box below, so go and check those out. This is what the first accent sounds like. So once I'd selected this accent, I'd pull it in reverse, and then after that I added some channel EQ and I low cut it by 412 Hz. Now moving on to the second accent, this is what it sounds like. After that I added one more accent which I got from the sound kit Euphoria, and this is the accent right here that I had chosen, and this is what it sounds like. Now with this accent I used it in the quick sampler, and then at the start here I just faded it in just to give it a smoother transition as it comes in. Next I added a soundscape which I got from Omnisphere. I went into the categories and chose textures playable, and then I ended up finding this preset right here called Visions, and then I bounced it down to an audio, and this is what it sounds like. And the only effect I added was some EQ, and I just took off everything below 362 Hz. And once I was happy with that, I went and bounced everything down to a single audio file, and then I chopped it up and rearranged it, and this is what it sounds like now. This sample is the main foundation for this grime beat, and I started to build it out and add more elements, as you can see. What I also done with this sample was I put it in reverse, and then I brought back some of the original elements. Now the first element I had brought back was the bells, this one right here. Then I brought back the accent Zealandia from Accent Essentials Volume 1. Then the second accent which I got from Euphoria, And then I kept the soundscape, which I got from Omnisphere, which is this section right here. Now this is what everything sounds like together so far. Now, as you can hear right there, this grime beat is really starting to build out now. Just bringing back some of those original elements has just give that grime sample, that grime feel, and it's got that dark sound to it as well. Then I started to add more to it. So I added another accent. And this is the accent I had chosen. It's called Accent Burner, which is also from Accent Essentials Volume 1. And the same process again, I clicked follow tempo. And here's the pattern for it. And this is what it sounds like. And then once I'd bounced it down to an audio file, I put it in reverse and then added two effects. The first was a shaper box. Now with this shaper box, I added the filter, I chose the sine shape, and then I also put it to 1 bar just to add a bit of rhythm. And then to finish it off, I added some EQ. And now with this EQ, I low cut it by 290 Hz, just taking out all of the lows. Now this is what this accent sounds like in reverse now. After that, I added another soundscape which I got from the plugin Alchemy, which is from Logic. Now with this Alchemy plugin, to find this soundscape, I went over to Categories, chose Soundscapes, and then went over to this section right here and chose Dark. And then I ended up finding this preset right here called Atmospheric Phenomenon, and this is what it sounds like. And the first effect that I added was some channel EQ. So with this EQ, I high cut it and low cut it. So starting with the highs, I took off everything just above 5650 Hz. So I'm just taking off some of those highs. And then also with the lows, I took off everything below 310 Hz. Then I added some Valhalla shimmer. With this Valhalla shimmer, it's pretty much stock settings. Normally, the default settings, the mix level is at 50%, but I've turned it down to 42%, and I'm adding this Valhalla shimmer just to add a bit more atmosphere and ambience to the soundscape. Next, I added some dark pads. Now with these dark pads, I got it from Arcade, and this is the library I got it from. It's called Ghostly Choir, and this is what it sounds like. And then the first effect I added was some Valhalla shimmer. And now I'm adding this Valhalla shimmer just to add a bit of ambience, a bit of atmosphere to these dark pads. And my mix is at 36%. Next I added some shaper box. And the same thing again, I added the filter, the sine wave, but this time I've changed the timing to 2 bars. Lastly, I added some EQ, and I've taken everything off below 126 Hz, just making space for my kick drum and my bass. This is why I like to low cut all my sounds, because I'm always making space for my low end. Next I added the flute. Now this flute I got from the ATL Culture Kit. Now this is the name of the flute that I've chosen, which is from the ATL Culture Kit. It's called Flute Accentuate. And I also clicked follow tempo, but towards the start here I just took off some of the start, but then also faded in, so it's just a smoother transition. And these are the notes for the flute, and this is what it sounds like. And then the first effect I added was some doubler. Now this doubler is from Waves, and it's like a chorus plugin basically, so it's just added some chorus. Next I added some Valhalla shimmer, and the only thing I done here was I turned the mix down to 34%, and then lastly I added some EQ, and as you can see I've took off quite a lot of the lows, so everything below 730 Hz, and this is what everything sounds like together so far now. And then to finish off this grime beat, I added some vocals. Vocals are a big part in grime beats that add another dimension and a different element to the grime beats. So these first 3 vocals I got from Arcade. So this is the name of the library that I got the vocals from. and it's called See You. Now I chose 3 vocals from here, and this is what the first vocal sounds like. Ooh, baby. And this is the last 2 vocals. Ooh, and then I added another set of vocals which I also got from Arcade, and this is the name of the library here, called Talking in Circles, and this is what it sounds like. And once I was happy with those vocals, I went and bounced them down to an audio file and add more effects to them. Now with the first set of vocals, the first effect I added was some EQ, and I had taken off everything below 260 Hz, and then next I added some Waves harmony. Now this is a harmony plugin which is from Waves, and what I had done was I had clicked generate notes, which had generated these harmonies right here. So this one -5, and then this one right here +7, and this is what it sounds like now with this harmony plugin on it so far. Next I added some Valhalla Uber, and this is pretty much stock settings, and I've added this just to add a bit of chorus and a bit more texture to the vocal. Next I added a second EQ, and I've taken off more of the lows, so everything below 302 Hz, just creating more space and just cleaning up the vocal. Then I added some Valhalla frequency echo, and these are my settings. And then lastly I added some Valhalla plate reverb. Now with this reverb, it's pretty much stock settings. The only thing I changed was the mix level, which I put on 36.5%. This is what the vocals sound like now. Now with the next set of vocals that I got from Arcade, I added more or less the same plugins. It's just that I changed 1 or 2 plugins. So I'll just show you the plugins that I had added. So with this vocal right here, the new plugin that I added was a vocal bender, and I put the pitch up to 12 and I left the formant on 0 semitones. Now this is what it sounds like with all the effects on it now. And then with this vocal right here, I added some compression. Now this is RVox, which is from Waves, and I ended up pulling down the threshold and just taking away 2 dBs just so I can get a more balanced level within the vocal, and this is what it sounds like now. And then to finish off the grind sample, I added 2 more vocals which I got from the Euphoria sound kit. This is what this first vocal sounds like. And then the first effect I added was a sound shifter, and I pitched it up 1 semitone just to pull it back into key of the beat. And then secondly I added some EQ, and I low cut it by 252 Hz, so just taking out all the lows. And then I added some compression, once again using the RVox just to help give the vocal a more balanced level. And then lastly I added some direction mixer. Now with this direction mixer, it's panned to the left by -55 degrees. Now this is what the second vocal sounds like, which is also from the Euphoria sound kit. And then the first effect I added was some compression. Once again I'm adding this compression just to help balance out the dynamics of the vocal. Secondly I added some EQ, and I low cut it by 635 Hz, just taking away quite a lot of the lows. Then lastly I added some direction mixer. Now with this direction mixer, it's panned to the right by 55.5 degrees. Now this is what all the vocals sound like together now with all the melodies. Now once I was happy with that grime sample, I went ahead and added some Perc Loops. Now this Perc Loop I got from Only One's Percussion Perc Loop Volume 2, and this is what it sounds like. And then the only effect I added was some EQ, and I took out everything below 520 Hz, so taking out quite a lot of the lows. After that I started to add some basses. Now the first bass is an 808. Now I got this 808 from Splice. Now I use this 808 in the sampler, and once again I've clicked follow tempo, and I also put the glide up to 64 milliseconds. Then I changed the mode to legato, and I turned the unison off, and the polyphony is on 1, and this is what the 808 sounds like. I didn't add any effects to that, I just left it the way it was. Next I added another 808. Now this 808 I got from the ATL Culture Kit, and this is the name of the 808 that I had chosen. It's called Edit. And in here I also set up the glide, so I set the glide to 64 milliseconds. I changed the polyphony to mono, and this is what it sounds like. And then the only effects that I added to that was some saturation. Now this is FabFilter Saturn, and this is pretty much stock settings, and I just added this just to add a bit of saturation and a bit of distortion to the 808. Next I added a synth bass which I got from Alchemy, and ended up finding this preset right here called 80s FM Bass Attack, and this is what it sounds like. Now this is what all the basses sound like together with the melodies now. After that, to finish off, I added some drums. Whenever I start with my drums, I always like to start with the snares or the claps. So in this instance, I started off with a clap, and this is the name of the clap that I had chosen. Now I got this clap from Splice, and this is what it sounds like. And with this clap I used an EQ, and I low cut it by 416 Hz, so taking out all of the lows. Next I added a snare which I also got from Splice, and this is the name of the snare that I had chosen, and this is what it sounds like. Now this snare sits right underneath the clap, which is just to help give it some more body and some more punch to help it cut through the mix some more. This is why when I EQ'd the clap, I took out quite a lot of the lows, just so I was making space for this snare to sit right underneath it. Next I added another snare which I also got from Splice, and this is the name of the snare right here, and this is what it sounds like. After that, I added some hi-hats, and this is the name of the hi-hat. This is what the hi-hats sound like now. Next I added another hi-hat, and this is the name of it, which is also from Splice. Now I'm adding this just to add a different bounce and a slight variation to the main hi-hats, as this sits right underneath it. Now this is what it sounds like with the main hi-hat. Lastly I added some open hi-hats, and this is the name of the open hi-hat, and this is what it sounds like. And then to finish off the drums, I added the kick drum, which I got from the ATL Culture Kit, and this is the name of the kick drum right here. It's called Bloody, and this is what it sounds like. So now I'm going to play it through, and this is what everything sounds like now. that's the end of the tutorial. Now for me, this is quite personal because I really love grime. This is where I started making music, so this is where I learned everything. So I'm going to be doing more grime tutorials in the near future, so keep an eye out for them. More importantly though, I hope that you've all learned something. Please like, share and subscribe. Until next time, peace out.